Everyone, today I'm kind of doing a video that was requested by Classic Modern Gaming, and he said that I should definitely do a video about how I used to work in the games industry. And if you get a chance, you should definitely go check out his channel, Classic Modern Gaming. He does some really good videos about the TurboGrafx systems back in the day. So let's see, I really have no idea how to go about this, to be honest. So I think I'm just gonna kind of try to tell you, my experiences working in the games industry. This was 15 years ago, mind you, so I can't remember everything that happened, and some of my memories are a little blurry at this point, but I've kind of rounded up all the games that I have that I used to work on. I'm going to show you them and just, I don't know, to kind of talk about just working there, I guess. I have no idea. So this is going to be a completely random video, maybe. I first got out of college in 2004, and I had, never been in the corporate world at all. I'd just been, working at retail or sales and managing a couple small businesses, stuff like that. And I was kind of just looking to get into any kind of just career that, I could go somewhere in. And I had a friend who said, "Hey, Phil, I've got this lady that I know that at EA, where I used to work, and I could give her your resume and, have her call you about this marketing assistant job." I was like, "Oh, okay, sounds good." And so I gave him my resume to give to her. And so this lady calls me, and I don't remember exactly how the conversation went down, but I was kind of expecting that she had already read my resume and was going to call me with maybe a few questions or set up an interview or with the marketing department, right? That's not what happened. She calls me, and immediately, she starts taking an attitude with me. She's like, "What's going on?" And it was almost like she hadn't even looked at anything before. She had just seen my number, and she's like, "All right, gotta call this guy or something, check him off my list." And I found out that she wasn't related to the marketing department at all. She was just some human resources lady. And she was just completely rude to me. And one of the things that really ticks me off is when people are just rude to me for no reason at all. And she kind of had this attitude right away, just "Oh, this guy's just wasting my time. What are you doing wasting my time?" And she's like, "Well, what have you done before for work?" And I'm thinking to myself, don't you have my resume? Because I wasn't prepared to present a sales pitch for her or anything like that. And she, I think, just was about to hang up on me, and I'm like, wait, you don't even know me. Can I get an interview or something? And she said, "Well, I have this other job that I could give you right away. It's just an entry-level job, though." So I said, "Well, okay, I don't have a job right now. Might as well take it, right?" So I got a job, first job out of college with Electronic Arts was doing quality assurance with them. So it was just a 3-month contract, they didn't sign me on right away or anything. And this was my first experience in the video game industry. Me and a bunch of other people, we all got interviewed kind of on the same day. It was one of those mass interview things. And they hired pretty much everyone, I think. And they just kind of told us to come in a week and they get us going. So I show up, and the management there was just totally incompetent as far as I could tell. They took me and about 15 other guys, I think, and just kind of put us in this office room, kind of got us set up with computers a little bit, and started showing us their system of how to test the games and how to enter the bugs in the system and all that. But that only lasted for 2 days, and then these guys, the managers, just disappeared, basically. So I'm showing up for work, I'm ready to do something, right? I'm all right, let me at it, And we're just kind of showing up to work, not knowing what to do. No one's telling us anything. but they had us kind of playing this game that they were putting out. It was pretty much already almost done, but they're like, all right, you know, check this game for any bugs. So we played this game probably for, I'd say, at least a week before they finally just came back and like, all right, we have a project for you finally. And they took us to another room, and they sat us all in our little cubicles and stuff. We had like, you know, 6 guys in a cubicle, and I'd still not met like my main manager, mind you. This was just like the higher up managers, I guess. They were just kind of shuffling people around and whatnot. And so that we finally got like our own computers finally, and our own like PlayStations to work on, and we had zero training at all. Like the manager just kind of set us up, and he's like, all right, we're gonna have a game for you. And I think finally I met my immediate manager, the guy like right above me, and he kind of came by our you know, our cubicle, didn't introduce himself, just said, all right guys, I got these test games for you. And I found out that our project for the 3 months would be to work on this game. And this is called The Lord of the Rings: The Third Age. And this was kind of like around the time when the Lord of the Rings games were super popular. And EA had already done a few of these that were more like action titles, I guess. But with this one, they kind of took a different approach, and they were trying to do like a role-playing kind of game. So they basically like ripped off like Final Fantasy mechanics kind of and made it like a turn-based system, but none of the characters are from the movie. They're like spin-off characters, and they throughout the whole game they were like following up the adventures of like the real Lord of the Rings characters. So we're making jokes like, what is this, Lord of the Rings B team? You know, this game sucks. And it was just kind of weird. Like everyone just had like a bad attitude about it. I think not because the game was bad, but because just the situation we were put in. And, you know, just like no training, just here's the game, go ahead, test it. Like they barely showed us how to work on the database that they have where we're entering bugs and stuff. And I just tried to make the best out of it and keep a good attitude about it. And I started entering bugs, and you know, the other guys in my cubicle are just kind of screwing around for the most part, as I could tell. Well, I'm like, hey, you know, I'm trying to get ahead here, and I actually tried to do like a good job, and I entered like more bugs than anyone else that was working there, which I found out was totally, you know, not in my favor at all. Because I guess like just the managers there were just totally socially inept, like period. They're just very bizarre people. And suddenly, like one day I remember this guy, I had no idea who he was. He just like called me over to his office, or his little cubicle, which was his office. And the guy sits me down, and he just starts like berating me about these bugs I put in. And he's like, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like, what the hell are you thinking? And this guy was like a real prick to me right away. And I'm just looking at him, I'm like, man, you guys have not trained me at all. Like, why are you taking this attitude with me? I have no idea what's going on here. And I think at that point, like, something kind of like registered with the management. So I remember the next day or something, they had our like immediate manager finally come by and was like, oh, sorry guys, I didn't really show you how to do anything. Let me show you like how the database works and how to enter the bugs and what wording you should use and all that. So yeah, my whole experience at EA was just kind of weird. That's the only thing I can say about it. Like dealing with weird people, like just like totally socially awkward nerds, basically, that ran the place. And the team itself was just out of control. We're like a bunch of young guys, just like not caring at all about the project or anything, just running around. Like, it was just bizarre. But I did learn, like, finally, like how to, you know, list the different kinds of errors in the games and you know, what to look for and like how to break the games. Because there's ways, like once you're a tester long enough, you can figure out how to break a game just by like hammering on it enough. So it was educational to some degree. And I will say the nice thing about EA, I worked at the Redwood Shores campus in Redwood Shores, I guess, obviously. And that place was just huge. It was like as big as my high school, and there was tons of people working there, and the facilities were just gorgeous. You know, they had lawns everywhere, and they had like a huge cafeteria that just had all kinds of food for you. And they had like a bowling alley, I think. Maybe not a bowling alley, but they had like a big arcade where they had like pool tables, I remember, and like shuffleboard and video games you could play. And oh, they actually had a game library too, like the separate little building where you could go check out games, like a library. I remember taking advantage of that. That was kind of cool. So the facilities they had for their employees were super nice. But just the way people were treated there was just really bizarre, I thought. And you know, even like the higher up managers, I could tell there was like something kind of off about them. Like they're just not very nice people, I think. And you know, that might just be like a corporate world kind of thing that I had never seen before. But I'm not sure. I've read before, you know, after I worked at EA that. It's like one on the top 10 worst corporations to work for in the country or something like that. And I believe it, I really would, because it was a weird place. But, so after our 3-month contract expired, they kind of just took us in a room and let us go. And so I'm like, okay, well, now I need another job. And I was engaged at the time, so I couldn't, you know, afford to mess around. I needed to get money quickly because the ex was kind of spending enough for both of us, if you know what I mean. And I got a job at Atari next. So Atari was like a much different place than EA. Their headquarters, I think, was in New York at the time, if I remember right. But their quality assurance building was in Sunnyvale, California. And I got hired. It wasn't, I don't think it was like a contract like before. I think it was just kind of like an open-ended thing. But I was still like a temporary employee. I wasn't like a you know, like salaried and benefited kind of employee, all that kind of stuff. And I remember going into the building first, you know, to get my interview and everything, and just thinking like, wow, this place is a real step down from Electronic Arts. Because their building was like in I think it was like a warehouse that they'd cleared out and just kind of set up like a bunch of old used cubicles in it. And you could tell like the carpet was used that they had in there. It was really kind of a filthy place to work, actually. And you know, they'd have janitors come and like dusting everything and stuff, but it was still just kind of grungy. And it you know, it wasn't like the high rises like in at EA. They have, you know, just one ground floor where they're sticking everyone in, maybe like 2 or 3 windows in the whole place, and just fluorescent lighting you. So the whole office kind of looked like that weird like green color because all the carpets and cubicles were kind of green too. That's what I remember about just the aesthetics of the place. And I will say though that EA, I felt like there was a little more going on in terms of just like managers that knew what they were doing and were just like slightly more competent. Because you know, I remember immediately like they showed us like how their database worked and what to do and everything. And you know, we got an actual like manual on how to write the bugs that they wanted and all this and that. So it was a little better place to work, even though the facilities weren't you know, weren't as nice as EA. Just because, you know, like human interaction is a lot of like how your work is, and it was just better at Atari. And I remember like when we first got there, I actually did not work on this game very long, I don't think. I think I might have just looked at it very briefly because it was going out the door like almost as soon as I got there. But I remember seeing this at least, and I think I talked about this in my other videos, the Atari Anthology, and it's got all the old 2600 games on it and everything. And this is where I'm kind of cloudy on like what game I worked on next and stuff, but I remember we worked on this one. This is Pirates Live the Life by Sid Meier's. And the game was actually pretty fun. You're just running around like having sword fights and looting other ships and stuff. And I think I probably worked on this one at least a month. That's my guess. And I don't remember like specifically what I did on it. We were just doing like minor, you know, bug finding and stuff like that. But if you guys like piratey games, I'd actually recommend this one. It's kind of fun. Now, the game I remember the most, and I think actually is the best game that I worked on there, was this Indigo Prophecy game. And I forget who made this one. Let me see. I kind of have a feeling like some French team was working on it, but I forget. Yeah, this came out in 2005, it says. And this is a very, actually, kind of artsy game, but it's got a very interesting style to it, because it's not like a choose-your-own-adventure game, but it's kind of like a, you know, you can do like all kinds of different actions in a scenario, and it'll lead to like different outcomes in the scenario. So it's kind of like a choose-your-own-adventure, I guess, but you're stuck to a solid storyline. But anyways, there's like reviews online. You can check this game out if you're interested. But my job on this was to go through the whole game and write the complete subtitle, I guess like text sheet for it. So I literally spent like days and days and days going through this game, listening to, you know, what the voice actors were saying in each scene, and writing out like the subtitle list to give to the programmers so they could enter it into everything. And it was actually kind of cool doing that, because I didn't feel like I was stressing on like a whole bunch of other stuff and like having to get bugs. They just kind of like had me do this, because I think I was like the only one that was really good at it. I think the other guys were doing something else. But yeah, I was kind of proud of working on this game, actually. And I did a lot of other stuff on it too. I actually had kind of like a big part in fixing a lot of major issues with this game. And mind you, I don't do programming or anything. We're just doing quality assurance, which is testing basically. And you know, we just find like crashes and stuff. So if you see you know, a game that comes out today that's like breaking all the time, crashing, graphical issues, that's either because the developers just didn't care, or it's because the QA testers had no idea what they're doing and didn't do their job right. So after that game, they actually made me kind of like an assistant manager, I guess, and my job then was to lead a team of like 4 guys, and we worked on this game here. And this is called Boggle Yahtzee Battleship. And this was the first Nintendo game that I had worked on. And I kind of learned about how Nintendo's different than all the other companies, because they're like way more picky about these like specific things that they're looking for in the game. Like I think graphics was like the highest priority. Like they did not want any kind of graphical problems at all. Like even if a graphic just looked kind of bad but wasn't like broken or something, they'd complain about it. So we had to be super careful about just bugging everything in the game that looked even slightly crappy. And I remember I kind of took over from my manager, and I started just working directly with the producer on this one. And I'd be, you know, he'd be in New York, I'd be in California, and we'd just be texting every morning, oh, what's going on with the game, you know, what needs fixing most, you know, what's broken today. Because I noticed a difference between Atari and Electronic Arts where their developers just weren't as talented. So a lot of times we'd have like a bug fixed, but the developers would, you know, the programmers and whatnot would end up breaking something else. So every time something got fixed, we'd have to check for everything like related to it to make sure nothing else got broken too. And this actually went more smoothly than some of the games that I'll show you next, but this one was kind of tricky. And we finally got all the 4 games to work on it and got it out the door. And I don't know what it was, but the producer was like super happy with us. He actually flew from New York and like took us all out to dinner, I remember. And the head manager of the QA building came out with us too. And he's like, wow, I've never seen a producer come out here to show any kind of appreciation for what we do. So that was kind of cool. It was a fun little experience. And after that, I worked on some Game Boy games. We got Backyard Baseball, and this was like for really little children. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone that doesn't have little kids. But if you know, if you have a little kid that likes baseball, this is totally a good game for them, I'd say. And it had like, I think some of like the popular baseball like players in it at the time. It says, you know, on the front of the box here it says Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod, and so they kind of like try to promote the game using you know, real players. But it was okay. I really don't have anything bad to say about these kids games. You know, if they're done well and they're good for kids. And another one that I thought was kind of a kids game. This one was the most broken one, actually. I forgot to mention that Atari at the time had the licenses for all the Dragon Ball games, which was probably pretty lucky that they had it. It was probably some of their better sellers of the Dragon Ball games. So they got just some random developer, I think, probably somewhere in, I don't even know, India or something, but they started making this kind of like beat-em-up game. And mind you, I don't really know anything about Dragon Ball. I don't know the characters or anything, but this one's like a very simple beat-em-up, and they had all kinds of problems, just breaking and breaking and breaking. But they finally, after a while, we finally got everything ironed out, and they got it out the door. And yeah, I would not recommend this game, even if you're like a Dragon Ball fan. It's kind of poor. And what else? I remember working on Dragon Ball Sagas for the PS2. I don't have a copy of that one to show you. What else? What else? I'll try to post some pictures right now if I remember other games that I don't know how to show you. And the last one that I actually own, this one was actually going like right out the door. As I was about to leave Atari, I think I'd been working there for like a year, and I think they were about ready to get rid of me at that point. But the Matrix games was another license that Atari had, and I think this one was like the second or third one maybe. But I remember, like, as I was leaving, everyone was all excited. Oh, I remember now. Mark Echo's Getting Up. That was the other big one I worked on there, and I don't have a copy of that because I don't like playing it. It's stupid, but that was like the really other big title at the time. And I actually did a lot of work on that too, especially with like the sound. I remember they had a lot of sound issues where, you know, things like they'd be kind of quiet when you're playing the game, and then they'd have like a movie cutscene come in and just blast your ears out. And for some reason, I think it's because we were working on little TVs and stuff, no one else really caught the sound issues, but I had some headphones on and I was like, wow, that's terrible. And so a lot of just stuff like that was going on with the Mark Echo game, along with there's a lot of license issues. I remember people don't really think about this, but even in video games, if you have like representations of like other trademarks, say, or like sometimes the developers just won't know, and they'll put like, you know, say you have like a fake billboard in the game, right? And they'll have like, you know, Owl Sandwiches, and they'll list like a phone number. Sometimes the phone number will actually be, you know, like a working phone number for some business or something. And another part of being a tester was to just make sure there's no licensing issues with the stuff that the developers are putting in. And I think Mark Ecko had some problems with that because they were doing a lot of licensing issues or contracts, I think, at the time, because there was like some famous rappers or someone they had in there, but then there was also kind of like stuff they were sneaking in. I actually, my memory is a little fuzzy about that, but I remember we had to be really careful about, you know, just like products and stuff that shouldn't have been in there. And yeah, I guess that's all I say about Atari. Oh, Atari was just, I would say it's like more good memories than bad memories. But something about video game testers, you just see the weirdest people working there. They're not like any other industry I've ever, you know, worked in or seen. There's just, you got people that you never even see otherwise in like your day-to-day, you know, outgoings and whatnot. Just horrible nerds and very socially awkward people, like a lot of freaks, just like wearing all kinds of weird clothes and weird hairdos. And there was like, at EA and Atari, I remember I almost got into like fist fights with guys. They'd like, there was like the one guy at each place, and I kind of remember the guy. Both these two guys, they almost looked the same, but I ended up like getting almost in a fist fight with both of them. It was really weird, and they just wanted to fight me for some reason. But I'd say like most of the people that are gamers and wanted to work there were actually pretty cool people. Just, you know, just like normal people that like gaming. Those are the people I got along well with there. But then like all the management at Atari especially they were kind of like older guys, and they were like the Dungeons and Dragons kind of guys that you'd see from like, I don't know, like the early 80s kind of guys. They're just kind of weird. And I just had nothing in common with them. And I think that's finally like why I got let go there, because I just didn't really mesh with any of the like the other managers there besides like the top manager. The top manager of the whole facility, he was actually kind of a cool guy. We'd like go play basketball with him and everything. But everyone else there was just weird. And yeah, I didn't get along with either of the human resources gals at either Electronic Arts or Atari either. They're just vicious women, really vicious, rude women, and I don't know what it is about human resource. I've never seen a human resources person that's not a guy. I mean, that's not a female, and is not just completely bitchy. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's like a human resources kind of thing. Maybe you guys could tell me some experience that you've had with human resources people, but yeah, that was it for Electronic Arts and Atari. So that's probably like a year and a half gone by at that point. And then I went to work for a mobile game company called iPlay. And I looked up this company just recently before I made this video, and I really couldn't find very much information about them. I found like just a mention of one of the games we put out, because there was like a marketing campaign for it, and these marketing people that work there just looted the company as far as I could tell. That this guy like hired a bunch of, I don't know if they're like strippers, but they're like kind of sleazy looking models, and the game that he was trying to promote was called Pillow Fight, where you're having like two girls on your phone just slap each other with pillows and stuff, like an arena fighter, I guess. And so he spent all kinds of cash on that, I think. And he's taking like pictures of himself with the models and stuff and showing them to us. He's like, oh, look at this guy. It's like, what's wrong with you, dude? And actually, at this iPlay company, this was in San Mateo. It was like right next to the San Mateo Bridge as you get off on the peninsula. And I think I worked there. It must have been 2.5 or 3 years. I was there a long time, and I got hired on there as like a full-time employee with like benefits and everything finally. But I was still only making $15 an hour, and I never got to be a manager or anything. The company was really small. There was probably, I'd want to say, no more than 20 people working in the whole office. And we were like on the 4th floor, I think, of like an office building, and we just had like half the floor to ourselves. Like the other half of the floor was some other company, so it was really small. And I think iPlay was a British company actually, because I remember the headquarters was in Britain. And I can't really say too much interesting things about mobile games at the time. You know, we're testing on flip phones back then. Still, it wasn't even, you know, like iPhones with the nice screens and everything that you see today. So it's very, very primitive cell phone technology and games. But I didn't mind it, you know, besides looking at a tiny screen all day, it wasn't bad, because they just kind of let me do whatever I wanted there. And the other guys that were working with me were all cool. No freaks there that wanted to fight me or anything like that. And you know, I got along with all the other managers, so it was actually not a bad job. That's why I stayed there for a while. But eventually what happened with that company was I think they had just kind of been bleeding so much money that the owners of the company just said, all right, we got to do some major cost cutting here. And what happened was our office in San Mateo, which was, we were marketing for the US, we were quality assurance, and I think like a few producers were there too. And a couple programmers too. And they were doing like, not like localization, I don't think, but just kind of, just stuff that needed to get done. But what the company did in the main headquarters in Britain, they was like, all right, we gotta, you know, get out of California, and we're gonna kind of transfer over everything to this team we're opening up in Romania. So I'm finding out at the end of my term there at iPlay that I am starting to have to train Romanians to take my job from me, basically. So, I mean, I was cool with it. I didn't care. I wanted to kind of go do something else anyway. So I was, you know, texting every morning, kind of training these Romanians what to look for on these games we're working on, and then, you know, they're figuring stuff out, and they were a bunch of really excited guys. I think they were just super happy about, like, they're having this company start up for them, and they're going to get all this business, and they're all enthusiastic about getting these cell phone games to play and everything. And it was kind of interesting. And I mean, they seemed like good guys. That's why I didn't mind, you know, that they were stealing my job eventually. And by that time I had enough of cell phone gaming anyway. You know, you're holding a cell phone all day, your hands kind of go home like this. You know, you got the claw hands. It was a weird experience for sure. But I think overall I worked in the game industry about 4 years. And definitely had some good times, definitely had some weird times, and overall I'd say it was fine. But I'm definitely glad to be doing what I am now instead. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed my long talk here. I know it probably went over way longer than I expected, actually, but see you next time.